5 women, 5 pregnancies, 1 impossible connection. They were nurses at Riverside Medical Center, professional, trusted, each assigned to the same patient in room 312B, a man who hadn't moved in 3 years, a man trapped in a coma, tethered to machines that breathed for him. But between January and September of that year, all 5 became pregnant. No explanations, no confessions, and the DNA tests? They raised more questions than answers. When Dr. Jonathan Mercer reviewed the hidden camera footage from that room, his hands started shaking. Within 8 minutes, he had 911 on the line. Within 20, police had sealed the entire wing. What he witnessed that night has never been made public. The recording was classified. The hospital paid millions in settlements with ironclad silence agreements. And room 312B? It's been locked ever since. This is the story they tried to bury. And the truth? It's far more disturbing than you can imagine. Let's go back to where it started. Michael Reeves, 29 years old, firefighter. By all accounts, a hero. On March 14th, 3 years before the pregnancies, Michael rushed into a burning apartment complex in downtown Riverside. He saved 2 children from the 4th floor. But on his way down, a support beam gave way. He fell 3 stories. Michael survived the fall. Barely. Skull fracture. Severe brain trauma. The doctors gave him a 5% chance of recovery. He never woke up. For 3 years, Michael Reeves existed in what neurologists call a persistent vegetative state. No movement, no response to stimuli, just the steady rhythm of the ventilator and the blinking monitors keeping his body alive. Room 312B became his world, a small, dimly lit space on the 3rd floor of Riverside Medical Center. His parents visited twice a week. His younger sister came every Sunday. They'd hold his hand, talk to him, pray for a miracle that never came. The nursing staff rotated shifts. They bathed him, turned him to prevent bed sores, checked his vitals, changed his feeding tube. For 3 years, this was the routine. Compassionate care for a man who couldn't thank them. Dr. Jonathan Mercer was Michael's neurologist, a rational man, published researcher, 23 years of experience. He'd seen hundreds of coma patients. He knew the odds, and he knew that after 3 years, Michael's chances of waking up were virtually 0. But Michael Reeves wasn't going anywhere. His family refused to remove life support. So the hospital continued care, and the nurses did their jobs with quiet dedication, until the pregnancies started. January 7th, nurse Rebecca Torres, 32 years old, married for 6 years, walked into her supervisor's office with trembling hands. She was 12 weeks pregnant. Her supervisor congratulated her. Rebecca didn't smile back. "I haven't been with my husband in over 4 months," she whispered. "We've been trying to figure out our marriage, sleeping in separate rooms. I don't understand how this is possible." Her supervisor suggested she see a doctor, maybe talk to her husband again. Rebecca left the office in tears. 2 weeks later, nurse Amanda Chen discovered she was pregnant, 8 weeks along. She was single, hadn't been on a date in 6 months. She told her roommate she felt violated but couldn't explain why. She had no memory of anything happening to her. By March, nurse Laura Kane was pregnant too. 10 weeks. She was engaged, but her fiancé had been deployed overseas for 7 months. The accusation in his voice during their video call was unmistakable. Laura swore on her life she'd been faithful. 3 nurses, 3 pregnancies, all seemingly impossible. And then, hospital administration noticed something. All 3 women worked the same rotation. All 3 had been assigned to room 312B. All 3 had cared for Michael Reeves. When nurse Danielle Foster announced her pregnancy in April, the whispers became accusations. When nurse Sarah Mitchell confirmed hers in May, the hospital went into crisis mode. 5 nurses, 5 pregnancies, all assigned to the coma patient in room 312B. The rumors spread like wildfire. Other staff members requested transfers. Families of patients complained. The media started asking questions, and Dr. Mercer knew he had to find an answer, because the alternative was impossible.
Dr. Mercer approached it like a scientist. There had to be a rational explanation. His first theory, environmental contamination, perhaps something in room 312B was affecting the women's hormones. He ordered air quality tests, water samples, tested the IV bags, the medications, even the cleaning supplies. Everything came back normal. Theory 2, deliberate assault. Perhaps someone on staff was drugging these women and attacking them. He reviewed security footage from the hallways, checked badge access logs, interviewed every staff member who'd entered that room over the past year. Nothing. No gaps in the footage, no suspicious activity, no unaccounted time. The DNA tests came back on all 5 babies. None matched Michael Reeves, but they didn't match anyone in the hospital database either. 4 of the 5 babies shared partial genetic markers with each other, something the lab technician flagged as extremely unusual but not scientifically impossible. The 5th baby, Laura Kane's, had a genetic profile that made the lab run the test 3 times. Parts of the DNA sequencing came back corrupted, as if something had interfered with the sample itself. Dr. Mercer met with each nurse privately. Their stories were consistent. None remembered being assaulted. None had gaps in their memory. None could explain their pregnancies. But they all said the same strange thing. They'd had dreams about Michael Reeves, dreams where he was awake, walking, talking, looking at them with eyes that seemed to see straight through them. Rebecca Torres described it as a presence in the room, even when I was alone with him. Amanda Chen said, "Sometimes I'd turn my back, and I swear I could feel him watching me." Laura Kane was more direct. "I know this sounds insane, but there were nights when I could feel him aware, like he was trapped behind his eyes, screaming to get out." Dr. Mercer dismissed it as stress, collective anxiety, pattern seeking in chaos. But then he reviewed Michael's medical charts more carefully. Over the past 8 months, there had been micro fluctuations in Michael's brain activity, nothing that qualified as consciousness, just tiny spikes on the EEG during night shifts, always between midnight and 4 a.m., always when one of the 5 nurses was in the room. The medical team had noted it, but didn't flag it as significant. Coma patients often showed random neural activity, but the timing was too precise, too consistent. Dr. Mercer made a decision that would change everything. He was going to install a camera in room 312B. It took Mercer 3 days to get approval. The hospital board was hesitant. Privacy concerns, legal liability. But with 5 inexplicable pregnancies and a potential lawsuit looming, they agreed. On May 23rd, a small, high-definition camera was installed in the air vent above Michael's bed. It had night vision, motion sensors, audio recording. Dr. Mercer told no one except the hospital director. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Hours of footage showed exactly what you'd expect. Nurses coming in, checking vitals, adjusting blankets. Michael Reeves lying motionless, eyes closed, breathing through the ventilator. But on June 4th, during Laura Kane's overnight shift, something changed. Dr. Mercer was reviewing the footage the next morning when he saw it. 2:47 a.m. Laura enters the room to check Michael's feeding tube. She's alone. The hallway is empty. She works quietly, efficiently, making notes on her tablet. Then she stops. She's staring at Michael's face. The camera angle doesn't show what she's seeing, but her expression shifts. confusion, then fear. She takes a step back. On the monitor, Michael's EEG spikes. Not a little fluctuation, a massive surge of activity, the kind of activity that suggests consciousness. Laura drops her tablet, her mouth opens, but no sound comes out. And then the footage glitches. 3 seconds of distorted static. When the image returns, Laura is collapsed on the floor, unconscious. Michael Reeves hasn't moved. His eyes are still closed. The monitors show he's returned to baseline vegetative state. But there's something else. For just 2 frames, less than 1/10 of a second, the camera caught something. Michael's right hand, the one closest to Laura, appears to be in a different position, fingers slightly extended, as if he'd reached toward her. Dr. Mercer watched that section 40 times. He called Laura Tane immediately. She didn't remember collapsing. She woke up on the floor 20 minutes later and assumed she'd fainted from exhaustion. She filed an incident report and went home. She never returned to work. 2 weeks later, she confirmed she was pregnant. Dr. Mercer didn't sleep that night or the next. He sat in his office, staring at the frozen frame of Michael's hand, trying to make sense of the impossible. And then he did something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He went to room 312B alone at 2:30 in the morning, and he waited.
Dr. Mercer sat in the chair beside Michael's bed. The room was silent except for the ventilator and the heart monitor. He watched Michael's face, pale, unmoving, the face of a man who'd been gone for 3 years. At 2:43 a.m., the EEG spiked. Mercer's breath caught. He stood up slowly, moving closer to the bed. Michael's eyelids twitched. Not a full movement, just a tremor, but it was there. And then, for the first time in 3 years, Michael Reeves opened his eyes. They weren't the eyes of a coma patient. They were focused, alert, aware, and they were looking directly at Dr. Mercer. Mercer stumbled backward, knocking over the IV stand. His heart was hammering. He reached for the call button, but his hand froze. Michael's lips were moving, trying to form words around the ventilator tube. Mercer, against every instinct, leaned closer. He could barely hear it, a whisper, raspy, desperate. "Help me!" Dr. Mercer ran. He burst into the hallway, gasping, and pulled the fire alarm. Staff flooded the floor. By the time they reached room 312B, Michael's eyes were closed again. His EEG showed normal vegetative patterns. Dr. Mercer tried to explain what he'd seen. The nurses thought he was having a breakdown. The hospital director ordered him to take a leave of absence. But Mercer wasn't crazy. He reviewed the camera footage from that night. The recording was corrupted. Every frame from 2:40 to 3:15 a.m. was unrecoverable, completely wiped. 3 days later, Michael Reeves was transferred to a private medical facility. The hospital refused to disclose the location. His family was told it was for specialized care. Room 312B was closed permanently. The 5 nurses received financial settlements on the condition they never speak about what happened. 4 of them took the money and disappeared. Laura Kane kept her baby. 8 months later, Laura Kane gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She named him Samuel. Dr. Mercer, now retired and living 3 states away, read about the birth in a private investigator's report. He'd been following the case obsessively, trying to piece together what really happened in room 312B. Against his better judgment, he drove to Laura's home. She answered the door holding Samuel. The baby was sleeping. Mercer could barely speak. "I just needed to see him," Mercer said. Laura's eyes filled with tears. She nodded and turned the baby slightly. There, on Samuel's left shoulder, was a birthmark. Dark, distinctive, shaped like a crescent. Mercer's blood went cold. Michael Reeves had an identical scar on his left shoulder from the fall, from the burning building. Laura saw Mercer's face and whispered, "You saw him that night, didn't you? You saw him wake up." Mercer couldn't answer. Laura continued, her voice shaking, "I dream about him every night. He's still in there, trapped, screaming, and somehow, I don't know how, he found a way out, through us, through our children." Dr. Mercer left without another word. He never investigated again. He never spoke about room 312B, and he never returned to Riverside Medical Center. But 6 months ago, he received an unmarked envelope. Inside was a single photograph. It was taken inside a secured medical facility. The image showed a patient in a bed, vegetative state, monitors beeping. But scrawled across the bottom of the photo, in handwriting that didn't match any staff member, were 4 words. "He's awake at night. Room 312B remains sealed. Michael Reeves remains in an undisclosed location. And 4 other children, born from the impossible, are growing up across the country." What happened in that room may never be fully understood. But one thing is certain. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some doors should stay locked. So what do you think really happened? Was it something medical science can't explain? Or is there a rational answer we're missing? Drop your theory in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And if this story left you unsettled, hit that like button and share it with someone who loves a real-life mystery. Because trust me, the next case I'm covering, it makes this one look tame. Thanks for watching.